Kristi Brower, and you know it, you're listening live here on Marvelous Monday on 12radio.com. It's really nice to be here with you. I have been away from Kindred Spirits for the last 2 weeks and have been airing replays, and so it's really nice to be back with you live. I missed you. So welcome, and I'm glad you're here. Please join me in the chat room by going to 12radio.com, clicking on the chat button, and that will bring you into our Facebook group. Now, you will find that I am live ×2 in the chat room today. So you will see my pinned post to the top of the page. Scott put that up there. That's my banner. You'll find me and other people chatting there. That's a great place to post questions, comments, ask for readings later on in the show. But you'll also find that I am broadcasting live on Facebook Live in the chat room as well. So, if you want to, you can watch the show today. Just a kind of a fun thing that I do here on Kindred Spirits every week. I really enjoy actually feeling like I'm looking you in the eye, even though I'm actually looking myself in the eye because I'm looking at myself on my camera. But I enjoy the interaction, of the energetic interaction of feeling like I have more of a connection to you over video. So that's a lot of fun for me. I also upload these shows to YouTube and I post them on my website. So they're always available later. If you missed something, you want to go back and rewatch a particular topic, they're there. I also link them on my website to my blog because my article that goes in the Power Peak every week goes along with my show, and then I put them together in my blog at kristibrower.com. So there's lots of ways to connect with me. There's lots of ways to see what I have going on. And that's the way I like it. So be sure that you check out all of those things in one way or another. I hope you've had a good couple of weeks. I have had a crazy couple of weeks, but it's nice to be back. I'm so glad Labor Day is over. I always am looking forward to Labor Day being over by this time of the summer, because in my area, Labor Day sort of marks the end of summer, even though it's still pretty warm here and there's still some things going on. School's back in session. The kids have to be home. Everybody kind of settles down. Nobody's traveling as much. Where life slows down quite a bit. And I've really been looking forward to that. So I'm grateful that we are at that time. I love the summer, but I also get really worn out on the running, to get as many fun things in as we can while the weather is still good enough. And it's definitely been that kind of a summer. We have camped more and, gone and done more things on weekends and stuff than we have in a long time, which is wonderful, but I'm tired. I'm ready to be home and settle in, So I don't know how it's going for you in your area. If summer runs longer than that for you, it probably does. But here it's already getting down sometimes into the 40s at night. We're still getting pretty warm during the day, but you can feel fall in the air. And that just makes me happy because fall is my favorite season. So I'm enjoying this time of year very much. While I've been away, I've been thinking about a lot of things, as I do. I pay attention to the energy of the collective. So when I talk with you over at 12 Listen, when I teach you at 12 Academy, when I see you here on the radio, I'm looking for patterns in energy because it tells me something about where we're at kind of as a species. Where's humanity at with various issues? And that's where my show topics come from. That's where my articles in the Power Peak come from. All of, those things come from reading the energy of the collective. So this week, my Power Peak article is called Timelines and Free Will. And I'm going to share that in the chat room with you. If you haven't signed up for the Power Peak, it is Mark Husson's newsletter. And it comes out every Saturday night. And you'll find the week ahead in there with CA. You'll find a great article from Mo every week. You'll find an article from Grace. And I write Kristi's quill. And it's just a great way to kind of look at what's coming up this week and what to be thinking about, what to be expecting a little bit. And I love it because it kind of kicks off your week for you. Helps you to be prepared a little bit. And so my article on timelines and free will has come from, multiple sources actually, several different places that I've been thinking about, reading about, and talking about this particular issue of timelines. And as a professional psychic, predicting timelines, and what is it like to predict timelines, and is it even possible to predict timelines? So I kind of told a little story about some experiences that I've had about learning about free will and cause and effect, those universal laws that we live under, and how that affects what I do for a living. So I wanted to talk with you more about that. So we're going to get to that topic. We're going to do a meditation. I've got the stone of the week, and I will be doing readings and healings later on in the show. So feel free to post those now if you would like. I don't know about you, but when I was a young teenager, I liked to read choose your own adventure novels. So they were the books that you could periodically throughout the show or throughout the book, you could choose the direction a particular character was going to go. You could make a choice for them. And then if you, depending on what choice you made, you would skip to a certain page in the book, and that would change the outcome of the story. So I would read the same novel several times, making different choices each time, because I was learning. I don't know if I realized it then. I know I was being entertained then, but really what I was learning about is I was learning about cause and effect and free will and the consequences of my choices, and how something that I do now can change what happens to me in the future. It really was, it was important. It was an important process for me, I think, to learn. Sometimes it was interesting to see that a choice that I thought was a bad choice, and I thought would definitely lead to a bad outcome, didn't always lead to a bad outcome. And sometimes the choice that I was sure was the right choice is what led to a bad outcome. So I learned some things about the complexity of the world and the complexity of our choices, because it is not so simple as if you just make all the right choices and then everything goes your way in life, is it? We know that. It's so much more complicated than that, because the future is not fixed. We're not practicing some sort of exercise in which we have to make all the right choices so that everything turns out okay in the end. That's just not reality. It's so much more complicated than that. It is often more random than that. And there is this interweb of energy and choices that happens amongst all of us, because rarely do you make a choice in your life that doesn't have impact on some other being on this planet, right? Family members, close friends, co-workers. Maybe it has to do with your job. Maybe you make choices and decisions for a living that affect other people. So our choices are not separate from one another, are they? We know that to be the case. I do understand the need to, believe that if I just do everything right, I will be happy in the end. That isn't always the case. And what is right? That's a big question for me. One that I've been working on a lot lately is, what is right? What are the right choices? Just because I think I know, does that mean that I do? And does that mean that what I think is right is also right for you? Maybe not necessarily so. Have you ever made a choice that you really regretted in the short term, but in the long run it turns out to be the thing that sent you in the direction that changed your life for the better? Have you ever, looked back at that and realized that, holy cow, if I hadn't made that choice, if I hadn't gone that direction, even though at the time it looked like the wrong thing, and it turns out that it sent me in the right direction. It gave me what I wanted. I'll give you an example. I've talked about this here on the show before. When I was, right after I completed junior college, I moved to another state to get residency. I was a music major at the time. While I was living there, I was in a car accident that resulted in me moving home with a neck and shoulder injury. I ended up giving up my scholarship. I did not go to the university where I had a scholarship to go to. I took a year off from school to figure out what I was going to do with my life. Ended up becoming a social worker. Pushed me along this path to become a professional psychic. Now, if I hadn't had that experience, where would I be? Would I be a music teacher now? Maybe, right? So although it seemed like a bad thing, it seemed like not the direction I wanted my life to go, it actually turned out to be really where I want to be. I'm very happy where I am. I'm really good with what I do for a living. It has had a tremendous impact on my entire life. Now, I had some questions. I had some opportunities to make choices, right? So when I had to notify the university where I had a scholarship that I've been injured in a car accident, I'm not going to be able to come to school there. They called me every few months for a long time, a year or more, to find out if I was getting well, if I still wanted to try it. They didn't want to just give up on me. Now, every time that they called me, I felt really strongly that I shouldn't go, that I shouldn't try, that I shouldn't make that happen, even though it is what I worked really hard for all through high school and my first 2 years of college. When I finally got it, it didn't feel like the right choice. There were people in my life that thought that was a little nuts, my parents particularly, who were really not sure where I was heading in life because they thought that I knew what I wanted, and it turned out that I was shifting that in a completely different direction. So that was sort of an interesting experience in cause and effect, because I had multiple opportunities to change the direction that went, but it never felt right again. After the accident, after I moved home, it never felt right again to move forward in music. Isn't that strange? Even though it did for all those years. So I trusted my gut. I made some choices that moved me forward. I truly did not know where I was headed. When you talk about a timeline, I didn't know what timeline I was on. There wasn't one, as far as I was concerned. For a long time, there wasn't one. So this all gets really complicated. It's not so simple as to think that all I have to do is just make all the right choices. I'm going to go in the right direction and everything will turn out okay. It's not, there are no step-by-step instructions for our lives, are there? Sometimes we wish they were, right? Have you ever said, I just wish someone would tell me what to do? I felt that way before too. Certainly it's why I do the work that I do, because I do know that I can provide guidance. But doesn't mean that we can predict exactly what will happen in every step of your life. No, it doesn't. There is no fixed future. There are options. We can make them. We can take all kinds of opportunities. There's not just one way, though. A question I get from people a lot is, am I on my path? Well, I think there are several. I don't think there's only one. And as long as you're doing what makes you happy, and as long as you're doing what you feel prompted inside of yourself to do, and guided to do from yourself, and you feel good about what you're doing, you feel passionate about what you're doing, then yeah, you're on your right path. What if that changes? It changed drastically for me 7 years ago. So after the car wreck, after the wildly changing direction in my life, I went to a local university and got a degree in social work. And then I worked in that field for 8 years. Now, you know, when you get a degree like that, it's kind of the expectation that you're going to stay in that job for the rest of your life, right? Except that I didn't. Am I going to say I'm not a social worker now? No, I definitely am. I'm just a different kind of social worker. When people ask me what I do for a living, like local people who worked with me in social work, I tell them I'm now in non-traditional social work, because I really am. The tenets are the same. A lot of it is the same. But it didn't feel like the right path for me anymore. And so I made a shift. I made a jump into something new. It was not something I expected. I would never have been able to predict to you when I started school as a social worker to study social work that I would end up as a professional psychic. I would have thought you were completely insane. Seriously, I would never have guessed that I would have ended up here. Now, I've always been a spiritual person. I've always been an in tune person. I've always unintentionally read other people. That is just a very deeply held gift that I was born with, but I didn't really understand it. And did I think I would ever actually do it intentionally in public? No. But I did. I do. It's happening now. The future's not fixed. If it were, I would have known, right? Or I would have chosen to be a social worker and I would still be a mainstream social worker. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, I know. There's a lot. This is a big topic, but I feel like there are many things, that we need to hit on with it. part of it, because as a reader, this comes up for me a lot. And so it's something that I want to work with you on, because what I hear from people a lot is, when will this happen? Well, the future is not fixed. There is not a day checked on the universal calendar. Today's the day. It's not really like that. We grow toward things. We draw things toward us. And in the right moment, things happen. Now, we can try to force them. We can try to push and push and push and make something happen if we think it's the thing we really want. Then we're working outside of that sort of universal timeline for ourselves, which simply says, trust your gut, trust yourself, move forward and do things when it feels right, rather than our ego getting in the way and we get scared and we say, well, we have to make it happen right now. You know how that turns out. We all know how that turns out. Not good, right? It doesn't turn out well. Often when we force it like that, we don't end up with what we really want. Okay, so I want to take a little break from this conversation and do our meditation, and then we're going to come back to it. So Scott and I are syncing up our watches right now so that the meditation will play for the video at the same time that it will play for radio. So this is my shifting perspective meditation, something I thought maybe would be really helpful for us today as we're thinking about timelines and pushing things forward. Sometimes we need to shift our perspective back to ourselves and what we can do to maximize our own potential, what we can do to make things the best for us without trying to force things. So, Scott, I am going to press play on shifting perspective. Shifting perspective. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Allow your body to settle and your mind to go quiet. Feel the music in your heart transporting you to another place, a place of peace. You are transported to a quiet room full of comfortable chairs. Choose a chair and relax. Before you is a screen. On this screen you can project any thought or memory that you want to examine. On a table next to you is a basket full of colored glasses. When you project the thought onto the screen, you can wear glasses of different colors to change the way you see the image. You will notice things that have been hidden about yourself and anyone else involved. Let's try it. Choose a person or situation that is very intense in your life right now. As you think about it, an image appears on the screen. Examine the image for a moment. Feel the intensity that radiates from the image. Now, let's shift your perspective. Put on the red glasses and examine the image. How does it change for you? Do you see the hidden need and fear in the situation? Does this change your understanding? Now try the orange glasses. Do you see the hidden emotions? How does this change your understanding? Now the yellow glasses. Do you see the hidden self-doubt, guilt, and shame? How does this change your understanding? The green glasses. Do you see the hidden self-loathing, grief, and pain? How does this change your understanding? And the blue glasses. Do you see all the words that have gone unsaid in this situation? How does this change your understanding? The purple glasses. Do you see the missed intuitive hits? How does this change your understanding? And the silver glasses. Do you see a guide or angel? Ask them a question. How does this change your understanding? And last, the pink glasses. See the situation through unconditional love. How does this change your understanding? Now, take off the glasses and examine the image with your new understanding. Do you feel the same intensity? Take a moment to ponder how your perspective has shifted with a clearer understanding of all involved. And now, take 3 deep breaths. And open your eyes. And welcome back to Kindred Spirits. I'm Kristi Brower, and I hope you enjoyed that meditation. It is called Shifting Perspective, and it's available for free download on my website, kristibrower.com, under free meditations. I wrote that recently. Actually, I wrote it about the time that I bought a new pair of sunglasses. I ordered a prescription pair of sunglasses with pink lenses, and I was going to wear them for you today, and they're in the wrong car, so I don't have them to show you, but they have pink lenses, and it's been really interesting to experience the world through a different color. I was at a football game recently and got mixed up about which team I was cheering for because my home team, my nephew's team, looked like they were wearing orange uniforms, which I thought was the other team, but they were red actually, and it was his team. So I found it interesting that when you look at the world through different colors, whether physically or figuratively, sometimes you see things in a little bit different way. Sometimes you catch something that you might have missed. It's an important part of understanding ourselves and understanding other people to be able to shift your perspective. So I wanted to share that meditation with you today because I think it is relevant to what we're talking about with timelines and free will. Sometimes we get so caught up in the when of something that we forget the what, the how, the why, right? Sometimes we get so stuck in when it will happen that we forget about the parts that we have to do in ourselves and the parts that really are someone else's job that we do not have any control over whatsoever. So I thought that would be maybe a good meditation to share with you today. So today we're talking about timelines and free will. Free will is a universal law that we all live by. We have free will, and so does everyone else. Free will and the law of cause and effect are the reason that the future is not fixed. Every time we exercise our free will on our lives or the lives of others, the law of cause and effect comes into play. Choices and actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences have a large impact on many people at once. This is why the future cannot be fixed, because I cannot be in control of every decision that changes the outcome of my life. I'm going to give you an example from my own life. Years ago, I worked for a mental health agency. This is back when I was working in mainstream social work, that offered day treatment services to children and adults with mental health issues. I ran the adult program, and other members of my family ran the children's program. Many of us in my family have worked in human service. Several of us were working for the same agency, but in different capacities. It was a good job. I enjoyed my work very much, and I was working hard to make my program grow. The adult side of the program was very new. It had only been around for a few months, and I was really proud of how it was going. It was developing. We were gaining clientele. Things were going well. So as far as my choices were concerned, things were going in a positive direction for my job, for the organization that I worked for. But the man who owned the company that I worked for had a tendency to cut corners. He ignored state regulations and put his children's program in a building that was not zoned correctly for his type of business. He also renovated the building without a permit or any inspections. He used his free will to ignore the very strict state regulations for children's programs. One day, the staff of the children's program arrived to find the doors locked and a note on the door indicating the program had been closed due to noncompliance. Cause and effect. Ignore the rules, get shut down. He closed his entire agency, and all of his employees were out of a job overnight. His free will affected all of us, resulting in significant financial hardship for all of us. We were all working hard at our jobs, working to make the programs grow, but what mattered in the end was his unwillingness to follow the rules, and his choices had an impact on a very large number of people all at once. So did I have any control over that situation? Ultimately, no, I didn't. I kept up my end of the bargain to make that a successful experience, but because he didn't, I lost my job. Free will and cause and effect have a direct impact on determining the timeline and outcome of a situation. So when I have a question in a reading regarding a timeline, I always preface my answer with, this is how it looks right now. But the choices and actions of other people can change everything. Nothing is fixed. So as a psychic, I will give you the most likely timeline and outcome, but remember that your choices and actions and the other people involved can change everything. Some of the most difficult situations to predict are jobs, real estate, and legal matters. Think about how many people's decisions come into play in those kinds of situations. The more decision makers there are in a situation, the more challenging it is to predict. I check in with the hearts of all of those involved wherever possible, which gives me the clearest information about where someone stands in a situation. But when there are unknown people and variables involved, it gets more complicated. In my opinion, it is better to ask, what can I do to get the best outcome in a situation rather than ask when it will happen? Your choices and actions matter and directly impact the outcome. And that is an area you can work on. The choices of others are often out of your hands. And so we all want to know when, right? That's a human issue. We all want to know, when is something going to happen? First of all, the when of things is not fixed. The when of things might hope to be fixed. We wish it were, but it isn't. And so to predict it can be very challenging. The bottom line is that the timeline of a situation can change multiple times. It is why, if it's a long-term thing, we check in many times. And sometimes I will say, I'm confident in the next 90 days that this will be the outcome. Beyond that, it is unknown. Sometimes it's more than 90 days. Sometimes it's 6 months. Sometimes it's 12 months or 18. Sometimes it's less. But it changes. Timelines change. I'll tell you one place that timelines change a lot that we feel frustrated with, that I notice is a struggle, is when you are asking about the outcome of somebody else's life. What's going to happen to this person? When is this going to work out for them, or that going to work out for them? Well, then you add a whole new variable, which is them and their free will, which can change, right? We all change, don't we? Just like me and being a music teacher, I was gung-ho to do that all the way through my first 2 years of college. Got into a car accident and decided, nope, I really don't want to do this anymore. Everyone around me thought my future was fixed, didn't they? Even I did. I was surprised by myself when I made those decisions and when I said that. But it isn't what felt right in my gut anymore. So it's a topic I think is important for us to think about, be aware of. I encourage you to look not so much at when something will happen, but what can I do to ensure a positive outcome for myself? So what are the things that I can do myself to make this work out the best for me? I can't control what anyone else does. I am in control, however, of my own choices and my behavior and the things that I can take on and do, right? And so that's where really you can do good work with a psychic is, what about me? What do I do in this situation? Now, we can work at predicting other people, and sometimes we can. But sometimes we can't. It depends on the person. Some people really don't want to be read. Some people are sort of behind a wall. And there's an ethical issue about pushing through that wall. I don't do it. If I reach out and ask a question and feel into something and I can feel that answer, that's great, I'll tell you. If I hit a wall, I'm not going to punch through it because, again, free will. They're saying, I don't want you to read me. I don't give permission for that. I have the right to say that, don't I? So how do we then focus on ourselves? I think it's important for us to look at, if I want a particular outcome, what do I do to bring it about? Where are my actions, my choices affecting the situation? How can I be the most proactive? It is never so simple as to, well, if I just make all the right choices, it will work out, right? We know that isn't true. But it is what we are in control of. So this is what I want to encourage you to think about and focus on rather than when. And I get it. I always want to know when, too. We don't like anticipation, do we? That's an uncomfortable feeling, that waiting, that anticipating that something's going to happen, but we don't know when. It's hard. We don't handle it very well as humans. So I think that getting involved in your side of things, really getting involved in, what do I need to do? How do I put my best foot forward? How do I make the best choices to make this work out for me, is much healthier than when will this happen. I also think that we have to remember that we have to let everybody walk their own road. And we may have family members that we want to know when, what's the outcome going to be? How's this going to work out for them? Honestly, we may not get to know because it's not your life. It's not your path. Even if it is a close family member or friend or spouse, it's still their path, right? Their choices are still affecting their actions, or still their choices are their free will, are still bringing about the law of cause and effect, right? And they may not make the choices you think they should or that you want them to. And they may not make choices that seem good for them in the moment, right? We can't control that stuff as much as we want to, as much as we want to be there going, no, now you do this and then you do that and then you do that and then everything's going to be okay. It doesn't really go that way, does it? I know, because I am probably a militantly independent person. It's probably a term some people who know me would use. My marriage works very well because I do whatever I want and my wife is okay with that. I'm not very good at following other people's guidelines for what I should do in my life. I have shifted my life away from all situations that tell me that that's what I should do, because I know that I know what's best for myself. I also know that you all know what's best for you if you trust it, if you give yourself permission to say, this is what I really want. This is the direction that I really want to go. And you get all those shoulds out of the way of loved ones who love us, and I'm not discounting that, but we all are on a different path. For different reasons, we make different choices. And just because we're in the same family does not mean that we're all going to do things the same way, does it? So it's something just to think about with free will and cause and effect, and how that can shift and change a timeline multiple times a day, depending on a situation that you're in. So I have a stone that I wanted to share this week to assist with this, and this is green calcite. Green calcite is one of my favorite calcites, and I am a big fan of calcite in general. I find it to be a very positive and gentle healing stone. Calcite does a really good job of helping us to bring about change, but it does it in a gentle way. Some stones are a little harsher, the energies are a little more abrupt, and green calcite really is a little gentler to us, and I appreciate that. When you're struggling with something, you don't need things to be harsher for you. Green calcite eases anxiety, it improves mood, and it supports a sense of peace. When we can be at peace inside of ourselves about whatever situation that we're going through right now, we can simply allow things to play out. We can sit back and trust our intuition and follow it and act at the time that is right for us, rather than feeling pushed and pressured and trying to force things to happen. I know you've been there, I've been there too. When you force things to happen, you often get an outcome you did not want because things didn't play out in the right way. There is something at play here that I believe in that is another universal law, which is divine timing. That things work out the way that they're supposed to in the right time if we allow them. Now, we can get in the way of divine timing all the time, right? And do. Sometimes we push and try to force things, and then we really get in the way of divine timing. But we don't have to. We can sit back and work on peace, work on acceptance, and allow things to play out in the way that they're supposed to play out. Often it means things take longer, right? It's that whole when's it going to happen thing. Well, sometimes it's going to take longer than what we want it to. And that need to have it happen now or happen in the time that we think it's supposed to gets in the way of just trusting divine timing and allowing things to play out in the way that's the best way. Have you ever allowed that and had something come to you in a way that you would have never expected ever in a million years to be, this is how I got the thing that I really needed or wanted in my life? I'll tell you a weird story, but it is true. I used to drive a Volkswagen Beetle. It was the new style of Beetle. And I had ripped the grill off the front of it where the fog lights are. It's a very low car. And living where I do, that's easy to do because when the snow is deep, you get stuck. And anyway, I'd ripped the grill off my car. And I was really bummed because this was my dream car. I'd always wanted to have a car like that. And now it sort of had a black eye because it had the front grill ripped out of it. And I was working on manifesting and learning. This was several years ago before I was doing this work professionally. And I was learning about manifesting and putting out to the universe something that I wanted and just allowing it to come back to me. And so in that practice, I was working with Shakti Gawain's creative visualization process. And I had used her pink bubble process and put out there that I wanted to, have the grill replaced in my car. And the idea behind the pink bubble is that you put your final outcome, you visualize it in the pink bubble, you send it up to the universe, and then you go on with your life. And basically, you just trust your intuition and you move forward in positive ways, but you don't try to force anything to happen. So I did that. And a few months later, I got into a car accident. I was in a car accident in which the other driver was at fault. It was a very slow speed accident. I was not harmed. But the entire front bumper and fender of my car had to be replaced because it was all one big piece of fiberglass. And magically, the new bumper came with, guess what? A brand new grille and fog lamps. Now, would I have predicted that I would have had a car accident in order to get what I wanted with my car? No, not in a million years. Did I really want it to work out that way? No, honestly. It was very scary. It was very challenging. Nobody wants to get in a car accident, right? Then I had to deal with, of course, the insurance and all that stuff. But the final outcome was a brand new grille on the front of my car. Weird, right? So I had no timeline for when I would get a new grille for my car. I also had no plan. I simply put it out there. This is what I want. If you can, bring it on down. And then I moved on with my life. I really didn't spend any time obsessing about it. I simply just put it out there. If you haven't read Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain, please do, because it is a far and away better approach to manifesting, I think, than The Secret. It is not about manifesting your $1 million check. It is about learning how to put out into the universe what you want and allowing it to come back to you. However, in a really positive way. And that is how that worked for me. But, again, the future is not fixed. Had I known that would have been the case, would I have stopped it? Had I known I was going to get into a car accident, would I have stopped the situation? Maybe. Nobody likes getting into a car accident. It was very scary. But did I ultimately get what I wanted out of that situation? I did. It was the other person's fault, and so their insurance covered 100% on my car. They rented me a car while my car was being repaired, and I got my car back better than new out of the deal. So it was a really good lesson in all of this for me, and also in cause and effect, because the cause, the accident, had an effect I could not predict. The future is not fixed. I could not have predicted. Even in that time, I didn't know until they fixed my car that the grill would be replaced. There was a part of me that went, well, maybe they won't put a grill back in it because it didn't have one to begin with. Turns out it all comes together. It's all basically one piece. So anyway, interesting stuff to think about. Helen says the watched pot syndrome. Right. The goal here is not to sit and watch and wait and try to force something to happen. Just as you cannot force water to boil any faster if you are looking at it as if you walk away and do something else till it boils, right? Same thing. We can't actually force things unless we really want some negative consequences, Something to consider. Alishaya says, one of the first books and tapes I listened to, highly recommended, of Creative Visualization, Shakti Gawain. It was, it's Shakti, Shakti, Gawain, Gawain, and it's called Creative Visualization. I'll type it in the chat. If you're in there, you can get it from there. Awesome work. It was written in 1975, so a precursor to The Secret and kind of that manifesting craze, but actually I think a much more grounded and spiritual perspective to take from it. I've used it many times. I've also taught it. There's a workbook, and so I've done some book groups with it before because it's really positive, and it helps us to understand this whole idea of free will and timelines and cause and effect, and how sometimes we put it out there and sometimes it works out for us and sometimes it doesn't. We don't always know what's best for us, and we don't always know what all of the other variables are. Okay, I want to get to a couple of your questions, and then I want to share with you, I have a special for 1-2 Day, because 1-2 Day is tomorrow. Rebecca says, I have a question about a message about a male friend I have and that friendship. I feel like I should end it. Okay. I'm curious, Rebecca, about why, if you feel that you should end it, you don't just end it. It's okay to trust yourself. I just want to validate that it feels like the right thing to me. In your energy body, it resonates positively that you're right, you should end it. This isn't positive for you anymore. You don't benefit from it anymore. It isn't the right fit. And it is okay, Rebecca, to trust that when you feel that inside of yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. You're moving in one direction, he's moving in another. That happens to us many times in our lives, and that's okay. So no fear of judgment or reprisal there, my friends. Simply move forward, and that's okay. Let's see. Sandy is starting a new job today. Yay, Sandy, how exciting. I know you've been looking, so that's wonderful. Any messages about my new job? Well, first I want to say congratulations. That's wonderful. And then let's see what else you have going on here. Okay, so first of all, there's quite a weight in your heart, Sandy. There's a lot of grief around jobs. You've been through a lot relating to jobs lately. I know that you have. And so I feel like we should lift that energy up and clear it away. It's important that, just like a relationship, you should not carry baggage into a new job from your previous jobs. You don't want to judge this job through the lens of the last one. Just like you shouldn't do that with a relationship. Sometimes you can, kind of cause something to not work out because you prejudge based on your previous experiences. This is a new place. These are new people. This is a new experience. So please look at it with fresh eyes. So anything that you need to do to release yourself from those past experiences, you should do. I did. So I feel a lot of heavy energy in your heart. And so I'm just going to clear and transmute that, releasing that energy of grief just around jobs in general. But really be careful about catching yourself. If you're prejudging this situation based on your past ones. Now, if that's intuitive, if you have an intuitive hit about a particular thing, trust it. But if it is simply an emotional reaction based on what has happened to you before in previous jobs, I would be very careful with that. Don't let something that's happened in the past affect this experience. Start new here, okay? I think that's an important place to start. Sorry, guys, my voice is a little off today. Okay, Kay has a question. She says, "Hey, Kristi, can you channel any guidance for me about my life purpose as far as job and career goes? I feel like I need to do something great or important with my life, but I don't know what it is or how to do it." Okay, Kate, that is a beautiful question and one that comes up here frequently. Here's the bottom line, Kay. What do you really love? What matters to you more than anything? That is the answer to your question. There is no right answer to this question. It is not as though you're here and you have to find the right answer before you can do it. No, I feel like you're a very compassionate person, that you have the ability to empathize strongly with other people, and that is a healing quality about you. Using that gift in any capacity, anything that you do because you want to do it, you're passionate about it, it makes you feel good, is the right thing. It is doing something great. It will change the world, okay? Use that gift of compassion and empathy inside of you in any way that you want. What area feels good to you? What are you attracted to? What do you feel passionate about? Use that gift in that area and you will be working your life's purpose. It is that simple. We make this much harder than it has to be. It actually isn't very hard at all to find our life purpose. I think that's why we make it so hard, because as humans, we're really complicated. And so we think everything has to be complicated. But I'll bet you that you already know the answer to this question, but you're afraid of being wrong. And there is no wrong in this question. There is only what you feel in your heart. Remember, you have a gift of compassion and empathy for other people. They feel it emanate from you. In the moment, they feel better. How do you use that in a job? I can think of a lot of different ways, but you should decide which one works the best for you, okay? That is a fantastic question. I have no doubt that you will figure it out, because I really think you already know the answer. So thank you very much for that and for being here today. Let's see. Pamela says, "Getting concerned, had hip surgery last year, which is doing fine, but now having pain in left shoulder, right hip, and low back. Starting to get depressed over this." Okay. So Pamela, I'm curious if you have followed through with physical therapy, if you're seeing a massage therapist, if you're making sure that the way that the new hip aligns every other joint in your body, because if you adjust one joint in your body, it affects all of the other joints in your body. If there is something that needs to shift because you're in a little different position in that hip that is causing some problems in your other joints. So I would suggest seeing a physical therapist, a massage therapist, someone who can help you to physically manipulate your body to understand that. But I feel like it actually is related to the hip surgery, that it has shifted the way that you hold your body, which has shifted the rest of your joints. There's a way to fix it, but you need an expert in those kinds of things. It's not an energy problem. It is a physical problem, okay? So if you went to physical therapy with your hip surgery, and maybe you can go back to the same people, but find someone like that that can take a look at the alignment of your joints. I feel like there's an issue there that can be adjusted, okay? So go see the experts. They will be able to help you. I have no doubt. Laura says, let's see, just got back from a 3-day convention, could use a scan and grounding. Yes. Oh, don't we all need grounding right now? Have you all noticed how hard it is to ground right now? It's very hard where I live. We have had an earthquake swarm that has lasted now 10 days. There have been 206 earthquakes in an earthquake swarm in my area. That makes it really tough to connect to the earth because guess what? The earth is constantly shifting. We're going through one of those periods of natural disaster, which we tend to have yearly now, all over the planet. The earth is shifting and we're trying to reconnect to her. So I would recommend this, Laura. Not only should you ground yourself to the earth, but then make connections to the elements of air, fire, and water. Now you can do that through thinking specifically about a body of water. You could light a candle and connect to that. You can connect up to the universe, or you can connect up to the clouds. Somehow connect to the physicality of our biosphere. I don't know, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. In multiple ways, not just with the earth, because the earth is on the move right now, and it is making it hard for all of us to connect. So very good question, because I think that's one important for us to remember, is that when the earth is moving, it's harder for us to connect, and it's harder for us to ground. Julia says, on the scientific front regarding the colored glasses, like our meditation, research was done a couple of decades ago. By putting a colored acetate sheet over a page, many people who have trouble reading can do so easily. They just need to find the correct shade. Right. They need to shift their perspective to the one that their brain understands. Very cool. Very cool. I love that kind of stuff. It confirms constantly to me the existence of the energy body and the colors of our energy body and how much those frequencies matter when we do this kind of research and find those things. So that is very cool. Let's see. Katie says, I've been practicing taking out this cord that keeps hitting me in my right shoulder, giving it love and sending it back to whoever keeps shooting them at me. If you have time, may I have a scan? My lower back has been hurting and my shoulder too, but that is every day. Okay, so Katie, what's happening here is this is an ongoing situation with someone that the cord continues to happen because the situation itself has not been resolved. And so it's important for you to look at the underlying cause. Who is it who is feeling so triggered by you? This requires some direct communication. It does not require you're firing arrows at me, you need to stop. Okay, most people are not going to understand what that means. Thought form attachments are unconscious unless you learn about them and study them and become aware of them intentionally. But this is someone who feels repeatedly triggered by you. Now, I'm not going to say that that's your fault or you've done anything wrong. It's likely not the case at all. It is simply that they are struggling and they are using you as a point of light in the universe to lash out at. And so having some communication with them, shifting their perspective and your own a little bit will be helpful. But I feel like you need to identify where it's coming from and then have some direct communication with them and work on that with them. Because that's why when they keep coming back like that, it is because it's a situation that is still occurring. Let's see. We are almost out of time. I just have 1 minute left. So I wanted to share with you, I do have a 20-minute time-based session over at 1-2 Listen on sale because tomorrow is 1-2 day. So this is a 20-minute session that's available for $59. It is my 20 minutes of clarity session, and it will be available tomorrow and the next day and the next. Now, I did want to say quickly to Katie, I'm going to post this in the chat, but you will find it over at one2listen.com on my advisor profile page also. Katie says it's her boss and she doesn't feel comfortable confronting her. Katie, don't see it as a confrontation. See it more as a, how can I help her to feel better, to feel less triggered? What does she need? What is she lashing out about? What does it show about her? What is she in need of? How can you help her meet that need so that the lashing out can stop? You don't have to directly confront her, but you may need to help identify the need. What is it that she needs? Does she need to feel better supported? Does she need to feel like there's someone on her team? Something like that is going on. You can change something about what you're doing that will stop it. Okay, so look at it from that perspective. It's time for me to go, so I got to say goodbye. But thank you all so much for being here. It's been so fun to be back with you live. I will be back live again on Thursday with the Psychic Sisters, and then, of course, always on Mondays with 1-2 News, and here again with Kindred Spirits. Thanks so much for being here, and as always, for listening to 1-2 Radio, where we're changing the way you listen to the world.